Hi guys, welcome back to another video, or your first video here, I don't know. Welcome if you're new here, welcome either way. This is going to be my April 2023 book haul and book unhaul. I didn't really unhaul enough books to warrant its own video, so I think I'm going to go through those first. So first of all, we have Kitsune, the deluxe edition or the bind-up edition. Oh dear, it's Roman numerals. I think this is number 4. What I decided to do was look at the comics that are on my shelf and try and find a version online that I can read the first volume of to see if this was for me, and it wasn't. So I basically just picked this up because I know that this particular publisher, June, does a lot of queer stories in manga and comics. So that was pretty much all I knew about it, other than from the front it looks very mafia based. Like I said, I did try out the first volume last month, possibly the month before, but this doesn't work for me, so this is leaving my shelves. Next we have 2 books that actually very well transition us from unhaul into haul. So we have 2 books, The Knife of Never Letting Go and The Ask and the Answer, both by Patrick Ness, and I have read these. I read this one for the Carnegie Award. Our school was one of the schools where students were tasked with reading for all of the nominees and then voting on them to go towards the actual award. This isn't the one I actually voted for, but I think that I wasn't mature enough at the age that I read this to fully understand all of the implications of what was going on. And I know that I read this one, but I really can't remember a thing about it. And I want to complete the trilogy, so I'm actually in the middle of a reread of this one. But the reason why these are leaving my shelves is because I found copies that I prefer much more, and I will show you those now. So I am a really big fan of these black editions. They are literally the same book. I found them in a charity shop for very cheap. They didn't have the last one, unfortunately, so now my copies don't match, but I vastly prefer these covers. So I will finish out the series. I'm hoping to do that this year, but excited to have these on my shelf. Next, I have a couple of books by Paul O'Grady. So we have The Devil Rides Out and At My Mother's Knee and Other Joints and Other Low Joints. Paul O'Grady is a figure who I really respect. I really respect a lot of the work that he did for animal rights and gay rights. I really enjoy his comedy and his drag as Lily Savage, and I don't normally get upset when celebrities die. That's not normally a thing, but it was very sad to hear that Paul O'Grady had died, and I found that as soon as that happened, I started noticing a lot of these pop up in charity shops. So I'm excited to read both of these. I also have, I don't know where it would be on my shelf, but I also have Country Life by him, and one of these I know is going to be a book club read, so I am going to be reading one of these very soon. Now, I don't usually do this, but this was absolutely a cover buy, and that is, or I think title buy actually, I don't particularly like the cover, but it is The Use of Pleasure, The History of Sexuality, Volume 2 by Michael Foucault, and I literally read the title, read the back, and I thought that sounds really weird and interesting, so I'm interested to see how it is. Also, I'd heard about the author from a play, actually, so I am excited to try this out and see what I think, because I have literally never heard anything about it, so it would be very interesting to see what historically people were saying about sex, especially in a culture where it wasn't as taboo and sort of unspoken of as some of the later Western cultures. So I'm really interested to see how this turns out. Next, I have a graphic novel called The Hidden Witch. So this is the second volume in the Witch Boy series. I know there are 3 books out. I don't know if it's intended to be a longer spanning series or if it's intended to be a trilogy. And I won't tell you too much about the plot of this because I think it spoils the plot of the first. So in the series we follow Aster, and he is from a magical family, but the magic is very gender segregated. So all of the boys are taught to be shapeshifters, all of the girls are taught to be witches, and Aster finds that he has more of an affinity towards witchcraft than shapeshifting. It very much talks about gender segregation and gender stereotypes. I feel like there's a lot of metaphors for queerness, and so I have read the first 3 volumes and I just wanted my own copy. So it's a very cartoony style. It's by Molly Knox Ostertag, and it's a very beautiful style of artwork. The next 2 books that I have to haul might seem a little bit weird if you know me and like the things that I'm into, and that is the Arcana Tarot and the Minor Arcana 8 and making 8 art and making of the Arcana. So to give you a bit of context on these 2, there is a mobile app. Trust me, this is relevant. There is a mobile app. There's a mobile app that is called the Arcana, and it is one of these visual novel games. So you are the character, you move throughout the story, and it is shown through a bunch of still images, the occasional movement, and it will show you the story, and you have options to change the direction that the story goes on, and eventually change whether or not you get a good or a bad ending. With this one specifically, like quite a number of visual novels do, the way that the story arc goes is that you have a central storyline that then splits following a relationship with one of the main characters that you've been introduced to in that first part of the game, and then you can choose which one to follow or to follow in all of them. And as this has grown, because I think that the story is really strong of the game, it's a lot of fun to play, the artwork is stunning, and I feel like it's very inclusive. You can put in whatever pronouns you want. There are multiple characters who are queer and genderqueer as well, and it's set up in a way that regardless of your pronouns and what you look like, the way that you are described is very much not gendered. So that's the game, and over time, as they've grown as a game, they've then come out with other things. So t-shirts and bookmarks and things. But 2 things that they've come out with book-wise, which I decided to get, was the Arcana Tarot, which is the accompaniment to the tarot deck. So the way that the game works is that the main character is a tarot card reader. Now, I knew nothing about tarot going in. I don't believe in any of it, but the developers of the game created an actual tarot card deck with all original artwork, but in terms of the suits and the characters that you have in a real tarot card deck, and the way that the characters read those cards in the game is true to how a tarot reader would read them. And so, just for interest's sake, I got the tarot card deck to play around with, which has a lot of beautiful artwork on it, and then this was the accompanying sort of manual on it. So it has an introduction about tarot in general, about the characters and the suits, and then it has a, try not to bend the spine, but it has each of the cards with then an accompanying description and sort of how to interpret each of the cards. And again, as someone who doesn't believe in religion and magic and all of these things, for me it was an interesting, and in terms of just having an extra experience to the story of the game and just expanding my knowledge as to what any of this even means. And I thought it was very, very good in terms of a beginner text to someone who has no knowledge, and I think it was lovely to go through all the artwork as well. And the second book that I bought with that is the Minor Arcana. So this one is more of a book going through the making of the game and the design of the characters and the ways in which it changed. It goes through some of the designs of the backdrops that were used in the game as well, and I'm very interested to read this. I might put off reading this until I've played through everything about the game, just because I don't want to be spoiled for any of the plot twists that happen following characters that I haven't followed their path yet. So I know it's a bit niche and I know it's not going to be for everyone, but I'm excited to own it. And the last book I have is going to be remarkably niche, and that is UNIX Perl to the Rescue, a field guide for the life sciences and other data-rich pursuits. So like I have said a couple of times on this channel, I am a big fan of stats, but the way that I do my coding is usually through the program R. However, in order to do certain things, Unix has been the thing that I've had to start learning, and I am just so out of my depth that I was recommended this book. I've basically been told that it's like reading a bedtime story, but you're learning Unix and Perl, I presume. And yeah, I wasn't sure whether or not to include this, but the fact that I bought this and it's a book and it is now part of my collection of things, I thought I'd haul it. But yeah, I doubt I'm going to be convincing any of you to actually pick this up, but this is a book that has entered my collection. And there you have it. Those are all the books that have either left or entered my collection this month. I'm excited about all of these. I also got a number of books that I have already read, so hopefully I'm not adding too much to the unread shelf. As you can see, I've got some books that I've sort of laid on their side that need to be added and slotted in the right places on my shelves. But there you have it, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.